Hi friends, time for another video. I want you to know how much I enjoy making these videos and getting the feedback and the comments back from y'all and the questions and the encouragement and the things that you want to learn about. Those are all great things. I had no idea, when my daughter said, "Dad, you ought to make videos promoting your book." It's no longer about the book. Obviously, I think you would enjoy the book if you enjoy the videos because you have it in written form with assignments and so forth. But bottom line is, I enjoy doing these videos for y'all. And one of the things I notice is a lot of you take time to look up my profile. Who is this guy? Who is this old coot that's telling us all these things? You know what? Let me tell you my story. I think you might find it kind of interesting, all right? I was born in central Kansas way back in 1959, before I'm betting any of you were born. I started working at the Dairy Queen when my parents bought it when I was 5 years old. I know, that sounds brutal, doesn't it? My mom and dad, especially my mom, taught me how to wait on people, to count change, and to make product at 5 years old. And so I would work for a couple hours a day at the Dairy Queen. They'd pay me $0.25 an hour. 2 hours is about all they get out of a 5-year-old. I would go next door to the grocery store, buy 5 packs of baseball cards, chew all the gum, and I had one heck of a baseball card collection. I probably was a millionaire until I went to college and Mom threw them away. But regardless, I don't hold that against my mom. But that's kind of my story. I learned how to worked hard. And they would take me to church. And I think that's important. Took me and my brother to church. They were there. We did that. I gave my life to Christ at my mom's leading way back in the living room in a rental house on Hancock Street in McPherson, Kansas, when I was 9 or 10. And, it was crazy. I can't tell you the exact age, but I can remember the scene completely. And I wanted to be saved. And my mom did a great job leading me to Christ. Well, going on then, I played sports throughout middle school, high school, was a football player, basketball player, ran track, was an all-league football player, had some chances to play football until they found out that I was 6'2" and only weighed 161 pounds. So that pretty well scared them away. So what happened, though, is I had one school that wanted me to play basketball. So I went there. And the funny part is when I was in 8th grade, my parents told me, "Randy, you will go to college, but we can't afford to pay for it. So we don't care how you do it, whether you do it academically, athletically, it doesn't matter to us, but you will go." And you know what? I made it. I made it through basketball. I had good grades, 3.5 grade point average, give or take. But bottom line is I made it to play basketball. The second year I was there, I met my wife. And the funny part there is she ended up at that school. She ended up being a cheerleader, not by her choice, but because her parents took her, packed her stuff, enrolled her in school, never told her what they had done because they were worried about the guy she was dating and they didn't want her to be with him. So they took her to this school with no car and dropped her off and said, "You got to stay for at least a semester, and then we'll come get you if you hate it." And that's how we met. I remember the first time I saw her. We've been married 42 years. Best woman I've ever met. She is incredible, and I am the man that I am because of her, Christ and my wife. So we became active once we got married, became active in the church, started teaching 4- and 5-year-old Sunday school. I became a trustee, I became a deacon, I was a Sunday school superintendent, and did all kinds of stuff. When I turned 28 was a turning point in my life. Even though I'd been saved for almost 20 years, I hadn't truly made a full commitment to Christ. And maybe some of you are struggling with the same things. I encourage you to do that. Listen to my story, and maybe it will help you understand why. There was a man that came to speak at our church. His name was Harry Liggett. Harry Liggett had lost both hands to an electrical accident. But when he shared his story, it may as well have been my story. And the crazy part is the things that he had experienced were right in line with me. It was like God was speaking to Harry straight to me, and there wasn't anybody else in the church. And he asked us to come forward and rededicate our lives. And I had my mother-in-law sitting beside me, and I had to ask her, please, Matt, if you don't mind, I need to go up front and rededicate my life and my walk. You talk about tough. You don't think there's a little Satan stuff going on there saying, oh, no, you don't want to look bad in front of your mother-in-law. No, Christ was calling me, and it was time. Okay? So little did I know that at the age of 28, how things were going to change when I made that serious commitment. I started teaching adult Sunday school. I started understanding that my commitment to Christ was serious. Well, along the way, our youngest daughter was born. Her name's Amanda. And right before her second birthday, we found out she was sick. She just kept throwing up. She didn't look good. Her color wasn't good. We went to the doctor. The doctor said, I think she's dying. I think she has leukemia. But we're going to run a test. You take her home. I'll call you and let you know what's going on. He called us. He said, you know what? She's dying, but not of leukemia, of kidney failure. And they whisk us up to the hospital in Wichita, Kansas, to pediatric ICU. Now, I held this little girl in my lap all the time. She was a daddy's girl. And the only way she would sleep is if she could go to sleep in my lap, and then Sandy would take her and put her on the crib or wherever she needed to go. Here we are at 7th floor pediatric ICU. I'm holding my little daughter who's dying of kidney failure. They've got machines hooked up to her, IVs in her head, in her arms. You can't imagine all the stuff's coming out of this child. And they want her to sleep. And I sat in a rocking chair with her in my lap with this machine keeping her alive. And I prayed. I said, God, you can have anything I have, any money, any power, any influence, anything I have. Just don't take my child. And I know there are plenty of people who have prayed those same things and it didn't work out that way. But in my case, it did. He saved my daughter. She ended up doing 2 kidney transplants, one when she was 2, which my wife donated to her, and one when she was 17, which our oldest daughter donated to her. So it's a great story. I have been involved in all kinds of things, school boards, 2 terms, political office. I ran for state senate. I've done radio for 15 years, play-by-play on the radio. We've done all kinds of stuff. But, you know, the crazy thing, God showed me where he needed me, and he uses me. What have I learned? Several things. Let me read to you out of my Bible here. It says, Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. And if you want to learn, if you want to gain wisdom, go to Proverbs. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Did you hear that? Follow God. Let him guide you. You know, so many often times we say, well, I have an opinion about this, or this is what I think. How about asking him what he thinks? What is your opinion, God? I need it. Proverbs 16:9, he says, the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. And that is so true. And I can look at my life and see every decision I made, God was guiding me to where he needed me, to meet my wife, to be in school, whatever the case may be. Isaiah 30, verses 21, it says, and your ears shall hear a word behind you, saying, this is the way, walk in it. When you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. God will literally guide your steps if you will just listen and ask him to. And finally, for a life's verse in my story here, it's Luke chapter 12, verse 48, where he says, to whom much is given, much is expected. And to whom much is demanded, much is expected. God will guide you. He has given all of us great things, but he expects us to use them to bring him glory. I hope you enjoyed hearing my story. I hope it motivates you and inspires you to look at your life and ask yourself, am I following his guidance, his leading? Because for many years I did not, but I hope you will, because you will not regret it, my friends.